This is the Bowie Advisory Planning Board meeting, November 10th, and I will turn it over to Terry Rogers, the chairman.
Hey, good evening and thank you, Joe. Good evening, everybody. Want to welcome you to our meeting tonight. On our agenda, first I want to announce that we do have a quorum here. Ms. Deidre Trask, Ron Scotes, Paul Schutler, Michael Bird, and myself, Terry Rogers. So we have a quorum. And tonight's meeting is the detailed site plan, docket number 20-08, Easy Storage. And it's a proposal for a 3-story, 48,708 square foot addition to an existing building on 14211 Gallant Fox Lane in Bowie, Maryland. So the hearing tonight will involve a presentation by city staff, followed by a presentation by the applicant. Board members will have an opportunity to ask questions of the staff and the applicant following their presentations. The board will also have an opportunity to hear comments submitted by the public for the public hearing and any questions received during the hearing. Board members will be polled for their comments, if any, prior to a motion. All those wishing to speak, please state your name. So that's, I guess we have with us tonight, Mr. Farrar, John Ferrante, and Mr. Craig Pittenger. So would you each state your name if you are planning on being a person of speaking on the record?
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bradley Farrar with the law offices of Shipley and Horn on behalf of the applicant.
All right, is there anyone else going to be speaking?
This is Craig Pittenger with Siena Corporation, the applicant.
Okay, great. All right.
And Mr. Chairman, and I apologize, there's another Bradley Farrar. That's actually our architect, our engineer, James Buchheister with Vica Engineering, who had some difficulty getting the link, so I had to share my link with him. But James, if you unmute and state your name, he may, if there's some technical questions, he would be available to answer those, sir.
Sure. My name is James Buchheister with Vica Maryland LLC.
Okay, great. Now, would you please raise your right hand and respond yes or I do? Do you swear or affirm that the statements you are about to give are true to the best of your knowledge, information, or belief?
I do.
I do.
Mr. Pittenger? Mr. Pittenger?
Sorry, yes, I do. I had muted, accidentally muted.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, so everybody has been identified who's going to be a person of record and have taken the oath. And at this point in time, I will turn it over to Mr. Frank Stevens for the staff report.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Frank Stevens from the City Planning Staff, here tonight to review with you detailed site plan 99003-01 for the existing easy storage facility located at the western terminus of Gallant Fox Lane. Thank you. May I have the next slide, please, Anthony? This is attachment 2 in your packet in our staff report. And as you can see, this is the outline of the site. It's 4.3 acres, zoned I-1 light industrial. Gallant Fox Lane lies to the top of the property. So the property is located at the western terminus, and to the bottom of the property, or to the west, is the Pope's Creek rail line. To the north or to the left is the existing office condo development, and to the right or to the south is vacant city-owned property, as well as to the left and or to the east. The proposal is to construct a 3-story, 48,708 square foot 478 unit addition to the existing 4-story building. There was a virtual stakeholders meeting held on this proposal on October 29th. We've summarized that meeting on page 2 of our report, and there were no public attendees at that meeting. A discussion regarding the site and building data begins on page 3 of the report. There's one correction I'd like to point out, and that's regarding the permitted building height. The permitted height is 36 feet, and the proposed building height of the addition is 35.92. So the proposed addition, the height of the proposed addition conforms to what's required, and there is no need for a variance application to be pursued. Therefore, we're recommending deletion of condition number 2, which is stated on page 7 of the report. A discussion regarding parking, loading, circulation, and site access begins on page 4 of the report. The proposal provides the required number of loading and parking spaces, and there are no new proposed vehicular access points to the site. Next slide, please. This is attachment 3 in our report. Discussion regarding the building architecture begins on page 4, and we've identified the building colors and materials that are proposed for the addition, as well as that exist on the existing building. Next slide, please. This is attachment 4 regarding the proposed landscape plan. Discussion regarding that begins on page 5 of the report. The proposal offers 4 varieties of deciduous plants, 2 varieties of evergreen trees that are to replace existing ones. There are no invasive plant species proposed. All the proposed vegetation are native species and are acceptable. Next slide, please. This slide is recently received the lighting plan for the property. We begin our discussion regarding the lighting on page 5 of the report. There are 7 building-mounted wall-pack light fixtures proposed on the addition, 2 on the upper side or the east side, 2 on the west side or the side facing the railroad tracks, and 3 on the north side facing the office condos. There are no proposed changes to the parking lot lighting that exists now in the parking area in the parking field, and the site appears to be well lit. Next slide, please. This slide shows the existing and proposed building-mounted signage, and a discussion regarding signage begins on page 6 of our report. The total area of existing and proposed signage is 146 square feet, which is within the what's permitted by the zoning ordinance, which is 400 square feet. The existing sign on the northern existing 4-story building will be removed, and a new sign is proposed on the northern side of the addition. There's a discussion regarding the stormwater management concept plan in the report, which begins on page 6. The stormwater management concept plan was approved in 2018 and expires on November 1st of next year. Final plan approval was granted in March of 2019. On page 6 of our report, there's a discussion regarding woodland conservation, and there was a letter of exemption issued by Park and Planning on August 24th of this year, which expires August 22nd of 2022. And the exemption is because there are less than 5,000 square feet of woodland being cleared. We've discussed master plan conformance on page 7 of our report. And based on that discussion, the existing and proposed development conforms to the area master plan. With respect to the staff recommendation, which is discussed on page 7 of the report, for the reasons stated on page 7, we're recommending approval with conditions, with amended conditions, actually. We're going to delete conditions 2, 3, 4B, and 4C because they have been addressed by revised plans that we received. And we'll retain condition 1 and condition 4A, which now becomes condition 2. That concludes the staff presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Stevens. We'll hear now from the applicant. Mr. Farrar, I think you'll be presenting for the applicant.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. On behalf of Siena Corporation, just want to be clear that we are in agreement with staff's recommendations. We want to make the board aware that we've enjoyed working with your planning staff and getting this plan and getting them everything. They've been extremely pleasant to work with, and we look forward to bringing forward a great project that the city of Bowie can be proud of. So with that being said, we're in full agreement with staff's recommendations and the 2 conditions.
Okay, is that it?
That's it, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Would the applicant care to offer any words, or are you okay?
We're fine with, again, we're fine with staff's recommendations and the 2 conditions. If the board has any questions, we stand ready to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, good. Mr. Pittenger, were you going to say anything?
No, we're in full agreement, and if you all have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, great. All right, well then, we'll turn to our board then and see if there are any comments, questions, recommendations that you would like to offer into the record.
Mr. Chair, my only concern was the variance and accepting the conditions, and obviously everything is good.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, great, and I'm in agreement with that. Mr. Schutler, Mr. Byrd, Ms. Stevens, I'm sorry, Ms. Trask.
I have none.
Nothing?
Yes, this is Mike Byrd, sir.
Okay, Mr. Byrd.
All right, Mr. Chair, for the applicant, so please explain to me and to us your project's economic impact on the city and or adjoining communities. How do you foresee that? I know it's kind of a deep question, but I mean, just generally, why is this project good for not only you from a company standpoint, but why is this project good for the community as a whole?
Sure. Mr. Byrd, thank you for that question, and I'm gonna take a run at answering a couple of providing a couple answers for that. The first is we think that it's good for the city of Bowie's tax base. Obviously, this is going to improve. It's going to take an area of land which is adjacent to an existing consolidated storage facility, and it's going to improve that again by 48,708 square feet of improvement, which will expand the tax base. And not only is it expanding the tax base and increasing the tax revenue to the city, but it's also doing it, and not creating additional burden on police and fire and in the school system. So we think that it becomes, from that standpoint, it's a win-win for the city. The second thing I believe that it does is, from an environmental perspective, it's good for the city. Rather than going out and finding land and disturbing land and creating a new consolidated storage facility. Essentially, this is the expansion of an existing facility. So what it does, and what it does is it's creating a new, essentially expanded consolidated storage facility without disturbing a lot of land and creating disturbance in the environment. The third thing I believe is, we've met with some of the city officials, and we've discussed this, and we've showed them our plans. And we believe that this provides an amenity. Consolidated storage provides an amenity for, as everyone refers to them, the quote unquote Bowie basements. As there are many homes in the area that don't have basements, but they do need storage. And so, the homeowners need storage. So this provides an amenity. It provides a storage that is lacking in some of the surrounding community. And so for those three reasons, I think this provides a win-win, a net benefit to the city of Bowie. And with that, Craig, if you want to add anything that you think I've forgotten, please, chime on in.
No, I think you covered it pretty well.
Yes, sir. Hey, that sounds really, really good. So my next question is, have you or your project team received any negative feedback from the constituents of the area? And if so, what are your mitigating factors to put those residents, those citizens at ease?
Right. And so, as was in the report, we did have a stakeholders meeting earlier. And we didn't receive any negative comments or any questions about the facility. I want to commend my client and VICA for, again, working with your city staff, because again, as a city staff raised any concerns or had questions, we worked really diligently to address those. Again, and I think that that's demonstrated by, as the conditions, as we talked about the conditions that we had, how those were addressed. And so now I think we've addressed them, and now we're down to 2 conditions. So we haven't heard anything. If you have any concerns, we certainly would welcome addressing any that you have, but we have not heard of any concerns at all.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bird.
Thank you.
All right, great. Thanks, Mr. Bird. Ms. Trask? You're on mute, Ms. Trask. There you go.
Okay, I'm sorry, my dog was barking. So I think this question is for Mr. Farrar. In the report, it said that despite the large size of the addition, that there were going to be no new vehicular access points. I understand the need not to disturb the land or environment, but I was just concerned about traffic backups and safety, getting around that parking lot safely.
Right. Yes, ma'am. And that's a great question, Ms. Trask. So 2 things I want to point out. The first is we're using the existing parking compound, and we will be restriping it to add additional parking. That speaks to the vision that the city had years ago, and in requiring that parking compound on the site so that it can facilitate parking for the expansion that we have now. The other thing that I want to point out is that historically, and we've done all sorts of traffic studies, self-storage, consolidated storage is a very low traffic generator. People come in, you may come in and say, say January, you come in and store, you take down your Christmas things, you put them in storage, and you're not going to you come in, it takes you maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes at the most to move them into your unit. You leave, you may come back, 6-7 months later. But let's say you do come back 6-7 months later, and that 6-7 months you've made 2 trips, and you've taken all of 30 minutes to load and unload. And we've just found it to be an extremely low traffic generator, so that there's no additional need for additional ingress or egress from the site.
Thank you, Mr. Farrar.
So, yes, ma'am.
My next question was, I think, for Mr. Stevens. In the report, it said that the stormwater management plan was set to expire next year in 2021. What happens if this project is not complete and the plan expires? What's the next step?
Well, it could, let me just double check. Yeah, well, it has final approval. It has final approval already. And, that's good for a certain number of years. And if the project is approaching the limit of that, there is a renewal process that the applicant can go through.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I didn't have any more questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right, well, thank you very much. Very good questions, Ms. Trask. If there are no other questions, then I guess the next thing that we'll do is I'll entertain a motion from the board.
Mr. Chair, I propose that we approve staff's report of DSP-99003-01. I have to admit, I had some concerns when the original building was put up. However, as Mr. Farrar alluded to, this facility has been very good for the city of Bowie. There's been minimal impact to any kind of traffic, as Ms. Strauss had concerns with the tax base. There's nothing that's going to really put a burden on services, as Mr. Byrd was concerned about. And the big thing is that aesthetically, if you're not from Bowie, if you're just driving down 187, aesthetically, this facility is at a point where you would miss it completely. So I would propose approval.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I second.
Yes, I second as well.
Excuse me, Mr. Rogers. Mr. Scots, would your motion include the conditions as amended?
Yes, Frank. The only concern I really had was a variance, and that's been clarified. So yes, as amended.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion for approval by Mr. Scots, a second by Mr. Schutler and Mr. Byrd. And that motion is been amended to include the changes as discussed. So with that, are you ready for the question? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, and the chair says aye, so the motion carries. Thank you very much, Mr. Farrar and Mr. Pittenger, for a very good presentation, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, so thank you. With that, let me just check something real quickly here. That was all we had. Do we have any minutes to approve, Joe?
No, sir, we weren't able to get those ready, so we'll have them for you at the next meeting along with the minutes from this meeting. The next meeting will be December 15th. That's on an odd week for you guys. You were usually doing it the 2nd and the 4th, but it just works better for the schedules for us to do it on the 15th. So I think we had sent a notice out and let you guys know about that ahead of time. We have two things on that agenda right now. The Mill Branch Crossing preliminary plan of subdivision. That's the Chesley property over on the east side of 301, just between Mill Branch Road and Rips. So that whole area over there behind the gas station. They have the mixed use approval now. And so what they're coming in with is the lots for the townhouses and the lots for the commercial parcels. So it's a subdivision plan. And then the other agenda item is a lot size variance up in Old Town Bowie. It's probably the first one we've ever done in terms of a developer coming in and saying, look, I don't have enough land to be able to build a house. And so they're trying to justify getting a variance. And I don't think it's going to be hard to not support it because they just own a little triangle of property and they don't have any ability to acquire additional land. So they're kind of stuck with a piece of property that's substandard in size. And I think the variance is the only way to go to address that and move forward. So they're coming to you for that relief. So that'll also be on the 15th of December. But right now, there are no other meetings scheduled between now and then. So I hope you all have a good Thanksgiving.
Do the same. And Joe, I understand you had a loss in your family, and I want to express on behalf of the board, our sincere condolences for your loss.
Thank you, Terry. I appreciate that. Thank you all.
All right, with that being said, everyone have a great night and stay safe. We're going into back into phase one. So
You need a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, how you doing? It is now 19:27, and I put a motion on the floor to adjourn.
Second.
no more. All right, great. So everyone stay safe, wear your mask.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye now.